Oh, hi there! If you're enjoying this video version of the Faking Up podcast here on my YouTube channel, then make sure you're also subscribed to the audio version of the podcast, available on Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcast apps. That way you can take all of the fun and semi-fictional hilarity with you on the go. And to be honest, I've always wanted to see inside of your car. I call the front cup holder. Use the links in the description below to find the Faking Of on your favorite podcast app. Hello and welcome to The Faking Of. This is the podcast where we fake our way through the behind the scenes story of the most iconic movies of our lives. I'm the film historian who was maybe sort of there, as well as the cruise ship director who makes you say silly stuff, Nick DiRamio, and I'm here to talk to you today about an iconic movie from the early thousands with one of my good friends and an expert in cryptocurrency working on the public relations side, which I think is a perfect addition to this movie because it is all about public relations, I think, at its essence. Mr. Joseph Hunt. Hi, Joe.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us on The Faking Of.
I'm so excited to be here, Nick, especially to talk about this movie. It's like such a cornerstone of my life, I've realized over the last week.
Tell me why.
I think it was at a pivotal moment in my adolescence, like as a late bloomer. In 2004, I was just about to turn 13, going into 8th grade, and that was like, I don't know if you remember George Bush running for re-election, but it was like a big deal in the South. And like this whole movie came out that summertime, and it was like, 13 going on 30. Like,
I would like to say that I can be like, yes, I do remember that election being a big deal, but I was like, oh, Lady Gaga. Actually, Lady Gaga hadn't been born yet, but I was still gay. So, and,
it was the
and
summer, it was the summer I realized that like I was in a cult and I was still saying all the cult stuff, but I was like, as soon as this is over, I'm out. Like, I'm not going to be in this cult the next time.
ooh, self-aware cult membership. And that all was teased out by A Cinderella Story starring Hilary Duff.
I do truly think so. It was like the right in the middle, like July 4th, middle of July weekend when like that movie came out. And it was,
That's
yeah.
fascinating. Okay. Well, then I think it would be best if you, in one sentence, could sum up what the story of A Cinderella Story is.
Knowing your worth and not taking shit and getting what you want and being authentic.
That's absolutely true. It's also a modern retelling of Cinderella.
It is. I find the whole a bit like the Prince Charming Cinderella thing very forced on the whole overall narrative because there's so many like gaps of how it's not Cinderella. But I'll give it that it's also, of course, a romance movie. But I think it's about female empowerment. I think it's about understanding who your real family is, or your second family, and not being tied by these weird, archaic legal definitions of family and what you have to do in your life.
Totally. I love that. And I think that's one of the reasons why this movie has become like an iconic sleeper hit because it got very negative reviews when it
Mm.
first came out. For a lot of the reasons that you first mentioned, that a lot of the like ways they adapted Cinderella to high school felt nonsensical. I want to go back to the pitch meeting for A Cinderella Story and figure out how some of these decisions were made. So, in this position, you're going to be the screenwriter for A Cinderella Story. I'm the studio executive, and you're telling me you want to make a modern romantic teen retelling of Cinderella. So you've just pitched that to me, and I've got some questions.
Okay.
'Cause basically, I need you to justify some of the adaptations that have been made in your script. Okay, so you know the when I think of Cinderella, the story, one of the integral parts is Cinderella's dad dying at the beginning, and that's something I think we want to be really sensitive about in today's climate. So traditionally in the story of Cinderella, it's kept very mysterious how the dad passes, but he's away, maybe on a journey. So we wanted to know how, in your version, can we handle the death of the father? How does your script handle it in a sensitive way?
I would say that it forces it up front and center. It's very violent. And there's no gore or anything, but like it's surprisingly detailed. Or like, yeah, what is it? This setting becomes the story, and it's like easily it quickly places the user or the viewer right in Southern California with an earthquake, and it's like a disaster movie. It's like not a Cinderella story movie. It's actually shows that like modern we build all of our lives on top of this sand crust that at any moment can destroy your life, and you have to move on and live with your
I
ugly stepmother and her ugly stepdaughters who become your stepsisters.
This is the like such a powerful part of the story. I think in any time they tell the story of Cinderella, like the idea of your like only closest family member dying and then like your life becoming a hell on earth because of the person that he married. Like there's something very scary about that. And this earthquake thing I forgot about until I rewatched this 2 days ago and I was like, "Oh, she like she's like my life was a fairy tale and then he married some nerdy woman." They made Jennifer Coolidge look like Lois Lane for that first scene. She
Right? I
had
was
these
like, is that her in makeup? I can't even tell.
they just like did chose not to put blush on her and they were like, "Oh my god, now she's a librarian." But that's more like Jennifer Coolidge and I think it's probably like her more of her natural hair texture.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden she's like, and then one day it was all taken away when the San Fernando earthquake hit. And Fiona, the wife, called the dad. And that, did you get that?
Yes. He
I
leaves
didn't get that.
her
And
he leaves her to go save her and dies, and that's because she couldn't handle it. She should have
what
been
do you
she's an
think
adult.
specific?
She's an adult in Southern California. She should have better earthquake prep, especially if you have children in a two-story house in the valley. I
Right.
not
Why isn't she calling for her children, being like, my two kids, where are you? She's like, oh, I need help. Like, girl, get it together.
Yeah,
Hold on to something.
I would like if this movie ever gets made, as part of the pitch,
Hmm.
that we actually include pictures of Jennifer Coolidge being like, "Sam!" Or what was the dad's name? His name is Hilary Duff, but who's the dad? Frank?
I
No,
don't know. The
Hal, because it's Hal's
Hal.
fault. Hal!
Oh my god. Yes, I wanna see her in a room, like, being rocked
Probably
around,
in her bed
tits
and like
jiggling.
he's
Oh my god, that would be so good. Okay, so yeah, we'll put that on the wish list for if this movie gets made. So far, you're selling me. What would be some other specific LA, San Fernando Valley ways for the dad to die, in your opinion? Just so we have some backup.
a car crash. You mean like with
Okay.
earthquake or like how he dies in the house or
No, any way for the dad to die that feels LA.
unfortunately the as exhibited in this movie and other points, I think we could really drive home vehicular death because of
Oh, yeah.
poor drivers in California and
Yeah.
big wide lanes and entitled people behind the wheel.
Also true, yeah. That's a really great point. He would definitely get smashed by a car, like, as a pedestrian by a drunk driver or something.
I
Just
think
like in another Hilary Duff movie, Raise Your Voice, the brother gets killed by a drunk driver. She's a tragic character.
voice of a generation.
Yeah, all of her friends and family die in movies. It gives her a great. Okay, so wait. I'm happy with how you're killing the dad, but what is the glass slipper in your version of this movie that
So
we're
in
pitching?
this movie, hmm, it is the cell phone, the flip phone that
Okay.
she
That she
leaves.
has clipped to her ankle.
I
That
mean,
was so cool.
I think it should be a lot better, but that's kind of what's in the pitch.
Yeah, well, I mean, you wrote this, so tell me your thoughts on why you think
Okay,
the glass
that
slipper makes sense.
well, you need the glass slipper if it's going to be a Cinderella story. So that's how they communicate and talk, and it's something that he should have been able to figure out if he opened it, right? There were no passcodes at that time.
He said it was locked and that he could just see text messages coming in like, "I need you," and, "The
Mm.
fryer needs fixing," and the the male friends are like, "Oh, that's kinky, dude." It's like, what why are you saying kinky in this movie about 16-year-olds?
Right. That was the whole thing is awful.
Yeah, there's a couple other moments that will that will probably
I
come up
thought this was
that
supposed to
didn't
be
age well.
me telling you what I wanna do with the movie, and then you're the studio, and you're like, "Sorry, we're gonna make it a phone."
We'll get to that part too, but first you have to defend your script.
Okay, then my script. It's 2004, and
Yeah.
cell phones were fine. I think that was, like, all the rage, but not everyone has cell phones, so they'll look at it as like, "This is great."
Yeah, and that was a, paid phone integration. That was like a new phone at the time, and they even show an establishing shot of the high school where, like, all the kids are on their phones and you hear beep, 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 beep. So I
Right.
remembered, like, they're trying to really show us, like, we're the 21st century now. So I buy it, the kids will dig it, we're gonna sell some phones with the glass slipper. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, but that's okay. We don't need that's for kids. So, next and final question. In your version of A Cinderella Story, who is Prince Charming? What's that character's name?
Oh, his name is well, the actor I would want to play this role is Chad
Mhm.
Murray, you know?
Okay.
But what is I think his name is Frank. Oh,
I
it's,
think I have the script in front of me and it says his name's Austin Ames.
Austin Ames, yes, correct.
Is the choice of an alliterative name, do you think intentional?
Very. I think that you have to pick an easy name that everyone's gonna remember the first time they say it, because then all of my characters are gonna repeat his name anytime. They're gonna repeat the whole name, like, instead of the opposite of Cher, you know?
Right. That's a very good point. Like when someone's a serial killer, you say their full name, like Chad Michael Murray,
And
although he's not a serial
Austin
killer.
is, a cultural capital of America,
Mhm.
and people will recognize it. But yeah, the alliteration is definitely intentional.
Okay, well, just in case the studio needs some backups, can we go down alphabetically back and forth? So you'll do B name, I'll do C name, and then just we'll do that until someone hesitates too long.
Okay, you go first.
Okay, so Austin Ames, Brandon Buchanan,
Clay Country,
Dalton Drayton,
Edward Elegant,
Frank Funhouse,
Gerald Jimenez,
Harold. Oh, is it H? Is H right? Oh, I lost.
you
I
lost.
lost it.
But I was ready for I, so I don't think you were gonna make it.
Is it GH? A B C D E F G H. Yep, I was on the right track.
But
So I
you know
should have
what?
said Harold
I
Hector.
I'll admit that I messed up with Jimenez because that's spelled with a J, technically. That
Yeah, but we don't know. You don't know this character. You wrote it. All right. So thank you for satisfying my questions at the pitch meeting. We're gonna go ahead and greenlight this production. Guess how much the budget was that we gave you?
I would really like $10 million for this movie.
Okay, is that what you think that it cost to make this movie? Guess what IMDb listed as the estimated budget for this movie.
50 million.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
Great. The estimated actual budget was very modest at 19 million. Um, and it makes sense now that I think about it. I feel like they probably paid Hilary Duff at least 5 million for this. Like, and then the rest of it is like, what is there? It's not an expensive movie to shoot. It's like a high school, and literally nothing. The uh, big set pieces were like the car wash scene where the girls ran through the car wash.
That
That was
scene is
scary.
expensive. The car crash scene the drive through LA. I'm sure will
Oh,
cost.
yeah. Shooting on location in a lot of those places actually would be on its own very expensive. There was that CGI shot where they zoom out and show that Fiona's lawn is the only one that's green during the drought. That was
That's
very
yeah.
impressive.
Oh, I thought it was just coloration.
I think it was like a lot of things. I think like they photoshopped like brown lawns and like expanded the look of it. I think there's a lot of movie magic that we can get done with our 19 million budget there. I want to talk to you first about casting as we go into production
Yes.
because according to IMDb, I quote, Rupert Grint won the role of Austin Ames but had to drop out due to commitments to Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban for the role of Austin Ames, and it went to Chad Michael Murray. What do you think of this?
Interesting. Well, I would have to say I don't like either of them. I want, uh, but I think for the movie that of those two, Chad Michael Murray is surprisingly like I can't believe he wasn't cast first. Rupert
Seriously,
Grint,
I'm trying to picture Rupert Grint being like, "I'm the
live
prince,"
in
but they
L.A.
probably wanted to, yeah, but they probably wanted to be really princey about it and like make it like he seems like a prince, and maybe they would have changed the script to have him be like, "He's from England," because he was already in 3 Harry Potter movies, so they would be like, his dad's like a his dad's like a his dad's like a king of his
Yeah,
dad's like a
would he have been an American? That's interesting because then he also would have if he was a British boy with the accent who moves here and he's rich, he's playing football, he's the quarterback. I mean, could happen, but like they don't have that sport there. They don't teach people to play it, so I find that hard. As someone who like was forced to watch football for like 8 years of my life.
Yeah, but they probably would have made a ton of rewrites if this was happening, like, they would have been like, "Oh, it's soccer now," and also, he's I don't know, his dad's a what is a British thing? I'm trying to be like, his dad is his could also be his mother. His mother is a senator? What is a senator in Harry Potter? The
Well, Harry
mist
Potter is magical, but in England there's the Parliament and you have lords and
They would
representatives.
be like, "He's from the Ministry of his dad's in the Ministry of Magic." Actually, I wanna have a, phone call where you're the producers of this movie, and I'm Rupert Grint, and I'm going to quit because turns out there's some scheduling issues with Harry Potter.
Hello, this is Miramax.
Hello, Mayor Max. It's me, Rupert Grint. How's it today?
Oh, thank you so much for calling, Rupert. We gotta talk, right?
Listen, I can go cut right to the chase. This Harry Potter thing's blowing up, right? I didn't know it was going to be this big. But turns out, they need me for a 4th movie. So I'm going to stick around for that, okay?
So you are gonna miss out on being in a Hilary Duff movie at the dawn of your career.
Tell that Hilary bird she looks gorge. I wish I could hold her hand in this movie and play some cricket and do the car wash scene. So fun. Love the water effects and all of it. But yeah, 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 yeah. Gonna have to say no, mate. Ooh, he's going very Australian.
Well, you are missing out on the opportunity of a lifetime. Our second choice is Chad Michael Murray, who's blowing up right now. And you know, if you want to get your own kind of not be second wheel to Mr. Harry Potter, you should rethink and then come make this movie. We won't make it in LA if that's what you need.
Well, those are some tempting offers there, but I'm gonna have to stay firm here. I think my movie career is gonna be great after this Harry Potter series. I think I'm gonna get some leading roles all the time. So
You'll definitely get some because you know you're working alongside Emma Watson and what's his face Daniel Radcliffe.
yeah, the whole sky.
He'll probably get some cool roles too. But you know what, Rupert? I talked to a psychic once, and they told me that you're gonna work on a really awful M Night Shyamalan remake or new make. Who knows? So good luck with that.
Oh, that sounds like a psychic I need to talk to myself. What's my agent's number again? I gotta go. And then he hung up because I could not do that accent anymore. I could not take myself seriously.
Can you
I
imagine if
was like, that's why I made myself Rupert. I was like, Joe's gonna Joe's
sorry.
gonna combust if I have to have him. No, somebody needs to be the studio executive. And if you listen to our voices, which one of us sounds like the studio executive, and which one of us sounds like a fictional, crazed person from the United Kingdom? The casting is now settled. We'll go with Chad Michael Murray. But I want to point out something about the production design here that I wonder if you noticed. I didn't
Oh.
notice this until um, the I read this on IMDb that many characters have distinct color schemes. Almost all of these tie into the color schemes of their corresponding characters in Disney's Cinderella. Did you notice any character colors?
Now that you mention it, but I have to admit that I'm not like the reason why I like this movie is not because I'm a Cinderella fan. It's probably I don't even when you said in the real Cinderella her dad dies, I was like, he did? And I was like,
I
oh
know.
yeah, because she has evil stepmother. But like
Has to.
I probably only seen that in the lower amount of like Disney movies. Up there with like
Yeah.
Sleeping Beauty. I couldn't tell you the real plot of that movie. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Um,
She sleeps.
but
Tired girl.
when you said that, so if that was intent, so now that I am thinking clearly, the fairy godmothers, there's three in the cartoon, right? And they're all different
Yes.
colors: pink, blue, and green.
No, there's only one in the cartoon. You're thinking of Sleeping Beauty.
So the fairy godmother is Regina King, obviously,
Yes.
and her color scheme is
Queen.
blue pink. I think is that right?
Blue for sure. Or pink. Wait.
Well, her
What's her name
uniform is
again?
pink, but I feel like her interior of her house was also kind of pink, and she lives in like a hacienda style house.
Fiona primarily wears pink. Samantha and Austin primarily wear blue. Brianna primarily wears green. And
Yeah.
Gabriella primarily wears red.
Red. Yeah. Okay. So the stepsisters definitely. I remember being like, "Wow, these." I thought it was more of them just trying to make them quirky teens because the loser sisters that only those girls or guys that only wear a single color when they're in high school.
Honestly, them adapting the colors of the stepsisters
Right.
from like gowns to matching velour tracksuits was the most seamless adaptation of the Cinderella whole
Also, you know what
update.
drew me up watching this recently was they're twin sisters, right?
Yes, one is like 26 seconds older.
Can two? I thought that if it was like twin sisters or twin brothers or whatever, that they were only non-identical if they were not the same like biological chromosome. Is that accurate or no?
I no,
I would
they
expect them to
can
be identical because I've only ever seen identical sisters or brothers or
no, they could still be paternal and be sisters.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
it tripped me up.
Cuz
A
that's just
I was like,
cuz that's just like I'm pretty sure because that's just like a matter of chance that two eggs get fertilized separately rather
right.
than one egg splitting into two babies. So it could just be a male and a female chromosome separately. Listen to me talking like I had no like a Punnett square. Don't listen to any of that, but I'm pretty sure they had it figured out. Also, you wrote the script, you tell me why there.
I feel like this is something your studio changed. Oh my
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we had some changes. For example, you probably had like an actual glass slipper, and we were like, we need it to be a Motorola flip phone
I
with the
was trying to
new
get the
color.
Olsen twins to play those twins, and you were like, "This girl has to be in the movie."
We could not afford the Olsen twins, and they would not play second fiddle to Hilary Duff, who's barely been in the game compared to them.
Okay, so
Um,
similarities. Well, the phone slipper thing was like that wasn't in my
yeah, that was the most nonsensical because like if you have her phone, you can just figure out who she is. And she acts like her phone's not missing this whole time. She's like,
Oops.
but and like trying on the slipper is like the part of Cinderella that like the everyone lines up for, and you're like, is this your phone.
Okay, to be
But like,
fair, this scene was inspired as the screenwriter. This scene was inspired when I was 16. I was living in Greece and rode a public bus home, and I had my flip phone out,
mm.
orange Motorola, and fell asleep on the bus because that's me. I think it was like 8 o'clock.
Wait, pause, because for those who don't know, Joe falls asleep everywhere, everywhere. We used to go to the movies, and like seconds in, he is like in REM sleep. So I can
Movies.
only imagine public transportation. Like, did you ever just wake up at the end of the subway line, like in Coney Island? Anyway,
Uh,
go on.
that has only happened once when I was a drunk college kid in New York. But the bus was actually I was coming. I wasn't a party kid yet, and I was just. It was like 8 o'clock, and I'd been up since 5 a.m. And I was coming home from track practice. I was like exhausted, but I was like, if I stay on my phone, I won't miss my stop. And they were coming up on my stop, and like the bus was slamming, and like my phone fell off my lap, and I didn't remember. So I got up, got off the bus, got all the way home, and I was like, oh my god, I lost my flip phone. I was like, it's just like
It
I,
literally was a Cinderella
Cinderella.
story.
I hope someone finds my phone and texts me. And that never happened. And I had to tell my mother that I lost my phone. That was like super expensive. It was like €100. And I wasn't allowed to have a phone for like 3 months. So that was awful.
That's like, I have traumatic phone damage things from my early childhood or from my teen years as well. So it makes sense to me that this resonates so much with you because this happened at a similar time. I didn't have a phone tragedy like that. My phone tragedy came later when I had a T-Mobile Sidekick that I begged for, and then I got drunk and I dropped it in the toilet. And I had to figure it out. I had to figure it out without telling my mom and dad, and some guy from Craigslist who I met on the personals section happened to buy one for me. So it worked out nice,
Worked out.
but
You got
it
to.
was scary. I had some stressful nights trying to organize that. But back to the movie. Here at the Faking of, we know that rewrites like need to happen fast in Hollywood, right? Like we're now shooting the movie, but there are new, like I'm the studio now, and we have changes that need to come through.
Okay.
So, for example, we have Hilary Duff's final monologue at the end that she delivers to Austin Ames, where she's basically like, the what would you call? How would you describe this speech she gives?
It's a speech about knowing your worth and calling people out on their bullshit and not going through life and dealing with other people controlling your narrative. And Mr. Austin Ames is so full of him, worried about his image and clearly has a couple months. What is it when students find out they get their early acceptance? It's in around homecoming season in the fall, which is not when most kids find out their college acceptance, which is in like March or April because you apply to a bunch of schools. So for him to be like, I'm gonna have this whole rest of my time in high school without this girl that I'm in love with. Um, she needs to take back the narrative and be like, you are a phony, and if you got any guts, you'll come to me in the next hour.
That's a very good point. Yeah, I like that it's very empowering how she like basically is like bye 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 and tells him what's up. While I definitely agree that all of those aspects of the movie are very essential to like the character of Samantha, I do think that sometimes the studio might want to shoot some alternate takes just in case they want to like fudge the messaging a little bit. And as you know, we're shooting already. Things are happening fast. So we need to work on some rewrites. If you'll just open that document, we're going to go through some of the lines in the iconic monologue. And I'm going to just ask you to shop some changes with me. Just got to be really fast with it. Okay.
Okay.
So if you can read me that first line that you see there from your monologue.
Look, I didn't come here to yell at you, okay? I came to tell you that I know what it feels like to be afraid to show who you are.
That's really powerful. That's really powerful. But I would like to hear a version of it where she's saying the opposite of all of that and doesn't use the word I. So go ahead.
The opposite of this. So you want to hear that she did come there to yell at him?
Just the opposite of all of it, but don't use the word I. That's the only note I have from the studio here.
You know what, Austin? I think that you're a little bitch. You are a phony. You act like you are so poetic and you're going to be this Mr. Princeton boy, but here you are getting ready for the homecoming game. Well, you know what? F you.
That was really good, actually. That's not how I would have done it at all. I would have been way more like, Austin, it's time to yell at you. Okay? Time to tell you that you feel afraid to show who you are. See, that's why you're the writer. You're coming up with much more creative ways.
But so what's next?
Okay, so just read me the next line.
Okay. I really don't care what people think about me because I believe in myself. Even though I have no family and no job and no money for college, it's you that I feel sorry for.
Wow, we love it. I love how cliche it is to say in a movie that I believed in myself. Like that's literally we need that to sell tickets. So gold stars for that. But we're getting notes from the studio that the word no is a little too negative. So just give me a version of that line without saying the word no.
When I'm talking about like I have no family, no college, no, that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, she needs to say the same exact thing, but just like we want it to sound more positive.
You know what? I really don't care what people think about me because I believe in myself. Even though life's hard, my father's gone, I have to work for my awful stepmother, and she doesn't let me keep any of my money. It's you that I feel sorry for. I'm not even able to plan for my future without having to overcome so many different obstacles. But it's you, little rich daddy's boy, who has a whole car wash this empire of Los Angeles, which everyone in Los Angeles washes their effing cars. So you are loaded, and here you are trying to get sympathy and act like, well, poor Hilary, Duff, me, ugly. You have to deal with the ugly diner girl. Like, eat shit.
Oh my gosh, that was so cool how you just didn't say the word no the whole time. I was like waiting for you to say the word no, but it never happened. How do you do that? I would like be using the word no every sentence if someone told me not to use the word no.
Well, I take direction, and like I'm the writer here.
Yes, clearly you're the right person for the job, and we're lucky to have you because that sounded really positive and also more accusatory somehow. So
And
I,
it
I
should.
love
Austin Ames
your.
a garbage
Mhm.
can, honestly. Like I don't know. I wish that my original screenplay had this ending where girl boss is so high that she becomes queen of this guy.
Yeah, what does she do? What is problematic about Austin?
He is a liar a lot. But he is at the top of the food chain. He doesn't use his skills, or sorry, his niceness and being a little poet. He doesn't ever help anyone else out. He doesn't ever show his kindness in any other way except online. So it's like usually when people are redeemable, they are able to break through and be like, when the boy gets teased or something by his friends, like he would like tell him to cut it out or something, or like when they're calling her diner girl, he would be like, all right, that's enough. Like, apologize.
That is such a good point. They never ever, and that's actually I did I think just on a subconscious level picked up on that this last time I watched it as I was like, "Oh, he's so passive that it's like passive aggressive. Like people are doing these awful things and he'll just like they show that he's not part of it by him like rolling his eyes or being like whatever or like paying for the coffee after like the friends were all ridiculously mean to their server, like
Right?
cartoonishly mean.
Does that
Like to the point where
happen?
sorry?
Said I don't think I've ever actually seen that happen in real life. Like I feel like I would, as if I was at the table next to them, I would have been like, excuse me, little girl, what did you say? To
Seriously, I would be like, I don't know if you guys know each other from school, but this person is working, and for you to be talking to them like this while they're working is absolutely inhumane, and you need to
although you know
get the
all of
fuck
those,
out.
yeah, all those people would be these fucking people who show up to restaurants and start coughing at people in people's faces, being like, "I'm not gonna wear a mask."
Yes. Oh my god. The popular girl, what's the popular girl's name?
And just so all
Quinn?
of your listeners know, I'm from the South and I can do that.
Yes. Duly noted. And I'm British, which is why I was able to do that Rupert Grint impression so beautifully. Ugh.
Although
Uh,
anti-maskers everywhere, so I guess I shouldn't give it
n-
one voice. But
well, I mean, the thing is about anti-maskers, they can look and sound like anything, but they're all idiots. Anti-maskers, anti-vaxxers, just get over yourself. So I'm glad that that's part of this rewrite as well. I don't want to mess with perfection here because this is an iconic line, but we do need an alternative. So
okay,
just read me that last one.
waiting for you is like waiting for rain in this drought, useless and disappointing.
I love that. It's really powerful. So we're going to keep it simple with the changes. Replace drought with a different natural disaster. And instead of useless and disappointing, make them sound like good things.
But then wouldn't the whole sentence change?
I don't know. I'm a movie studio. What do I know?
Hold on, I got it.
This is not art.
I hold on.
Movies don't hold on.
Waiting for you is like waiting for help in the middle of a wildfire that's heading towards you. Stupid and fucking terrifying.
Very good. You definitely did not make it sound positive, but I
How do I make a disaster sound positive, Nick?
I think that was supposed to be the challenging part. But I actually don't want to hear a very positive version of that because wildfires are a serious issue.
They are.
And what do you think? How do we stop wildfires in this in California, Joe? You know so much about environment. Joe also is like super knowledgeable about green energy. Also, Joe and I met. This is fun to talk about. I think Joe and I met in college freshman year. We had classes together, and then did not like from freshman year on did not talk or interact. I don't even think we were Facebook friends. And then we like you tell the story of how we interacted.
We had two freshman year, no, one freshman year class together. But we like sat, I think, diagonal or next to each other, but they were all these like, college where you sit in your independent seat. It's not like at a giant table or anything. So, but Nick and I never interacted, but we both had this kind of boss, amazing, not boss, professor who was like angelic and like essentially what Nicole Kidman's trying to be on Nine Perfect Strangers. And all of her kids were like super obsessed with her, and she'd blow an 18-year-old mind about books written from like 6,000 years ago. So Nick and I never chatted, but no, like 6 years later, we must have been like 24 or something. Both ended up moving to LA within like a month of each other. And then a couple months after we each had moved here, became friends with this guy named Paul, who's now one of our besties. And Paul had an Oscar party, and I forget if I feel like I was there and walked in and saw you, or were you already at the party?
I know for a fact I was already there because I was frosting a cake.
Okay, so I showed up, and it was this Oscar party of we were 24, and I think the next youngest person there must have been like 45 or something.
Yeah.
So we walked in, and it was like all of these people were like, "Hello, like who are you?" And I
Right.
immediately saw you, and I was like, "This kid looks so familiar. Where are you from?" And then we instantly realized that was, I think, instant. It was like within 5 seconds, right? I think we were like
Yeah.
NY
Absolutely.
from Dusty
Though
bathroom.
it was like my whole brain, like it was one of those moments where it's like you instantly recognize someone and your brain is like running through the Rolodex of like what season of my life, what era of my mental illness, what portion of my
What
addiction
level of
was all of that from.
where was I at? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like, how hungry was I at that time? Because I remember so little about freshman year of college, unfortunately, because I was pretty active in my alcoholism from the minute I got back to New York. But I had already been in treatment for it at one time before that. But so somewhere deep in my recesses of my brain, I was like, and then we were instantly, you said Heidi's name, and I was like, yes, we sat across from each other in Heidi's class. And Heidi was amazing. She was one of those professors. She even lived in the dorm, like the professors
Did you
in
ever go to the
Fellow.
apartment?
No, because
I did.
I had too much social anxiety. You went?
I
Really?
went. It was one of the coolest apartments I've ever seen in Manhattan, for sure.
Really?
She was like I said, she is a goddess walking on earth. Like, it was I was like, "Wow, you've whatever you've done to get here, like, worth it."
Yeah. I was curious to see how those professors who lived in the dorm buildings would renovate or decorate, I guess, a
Hers
dorm.
was so I've been to, like, I think what other dorms have you been to where they had the professors like that?
Never ever one. No.
Oh, okay. So I've only been to hers. I don't think I've seen, like, RA's rooms and stuff, and they're always nice.
Okay. Yeah.
But hers was at the top of Reuben, which is, like, an
Mhm.
old for the people who don't know New York City, it's, like, a building from, like, built in, like, 1900, 1905, like, before World War One. Like, tall for the age, but it's only, like, 18 stories, and at the top, all the top floors are always, like, penthouses. So she had the very top room of this entire dorm, or the whole floor was hers, and it was, like, 15-foot ceilings, like, from that time period, but, like, everything was styled pre-1950s. And she had this wraparound balcony in the middle of,
Ah,
like, that was what, 12th Street? So that's, like, the end of the West Village before it turns into skyscrapers, so you could see, like, everything. It wasn't, like,
impossible location, impossible apartment to
you could
achieve
see both
without NYU giving it to you.
you could see both rivers from her apartment, and it's like,
What?
that's hard to do on that, like, that part of town, but it's, like, because 14th Street is right after, and that's where the tall buildings start, so you could see across. It was crazy.
That's crazy. Wow. And they probably gave her a stipend to live there.
It was also terrifying, Nick, because you got up there, or at least I mean, like, I never I grew up in the South where things were maybe 2 stories tall and 1 story, maybe a basement, and, nothing ever 3 or 4 stories up, except when I lived in Greece when most buildings were, like, 6 stories tall. But you got to the top of her floor, and it was, like, the 20th story or whatever, and I remember being terrified. I was like, "Do I need to hold the walls? Like, am I gonna blow off? Am I
Oh
gonna
my
jump?"
god.
I remember being 18 and being like, "Am I gonna jump off?" I was like, "This is unsafe for college students, especially at that fucking school." You
Yeah.
know? Like, it was actually
Well,
something I remember, like, consciously thinking about. I was like, "I can't believe that there's, like, no guardrail or there's no, like, anything." Like, it was just a ledge, kinda like a patio, you know? Like, it was really
yeah.
scary. And there was, like, all these
There
18-year-olds, and everyone was, like, trying to, like, vampire her energy, like, "Oh my god, Heidi." And meanwhile, she's, like, a cult leader, essentially. It is like,
right.
"Hello, children, my ethereal doves.
So cool and collected.
Let me blow your mind today."
She was so smart, but also I think the most interesting part of the story is that you experienced your first tall building.
Oh, I've
Like
I've
being
definitely been in skyscrapers, but it's been a long time. Like, I've been in New York
right.
a couple times. Like, I've been on top of the World Trade Center, and, like, that was also the same feeling where I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna die."
Yeah,
How
the
did
call
people
of the void, that's always what I feel when I'm in front of
Yeah,
a precipice like that.
that's exactly what it was, and I remember being like, "Does anyone else feel this? Like, I don't wanna be up here anymore. Like,
Yeah.
she's gonna throw us off." Like,
Well, and I mean, always took note of how at NYU the buildings were very secure, like in terms of windows opening or getting access to the roof. Like you could access the roofs for emergency, but they were heavily alarmed, and there were suicide like resource numbers there because for throughout the history, I think that has been a big issue for the school. And we know that to be true for the library in particular. They had to do a lot of renovations while we were there to prevent people from taking their lives from in those buildings. So
I
it makes
think
sense that only.
the school,
Sorry.
when we arrived in 2009, I remember being like, I know they're trying to, these all seem like cosmetic things. I was like, this is not, like, you shouldn't be able to go on a roof for any emergency. Like, what emergency do you need to be on a roof besides the day after tomorrow kind of flood surge? like,
Right.
like there's no, if the building's collapsing or it's in danger, there's a fire inside, you don't go to the top, you leave. So I remember being like 2 months into school there, and I had my first call of the void where I was like, it was weird. Like, I woke up in a daze, like super stressed and like anxious and being like, I'm gonna fail my whole life. Like, I'm not gonna make it here. And like I started climbing the staircase inside Founders, like trying to get some air. That was when
Right.
I saw it, but I was going up. And then I remember I got all the
Right.
way to the top and it had this message on the door that was like, you can call this number. You don't need to do this. But I remember that scared me more than even like calling them. I was like, why is this door, why would you be able to open it? Like, you could, like, by the time a guard gets from the bottom floor to the top, like if someone was like super serious, like it's game over. Like, why is,
Yeah.
anyway, I just thought it was,
That's a really good point.
but that was, sorry,
That's a really good
I
point.
don't, we don't need to like go down a rabbit hole on suicide.
No, well, I always thought it was such an interesting aspect of New York University that, they did.
Man. I think that's what
There
it
was a
is.
musical. Do you remember the musical that they did? Like the theater kids did a musical for us orientation week about like basically the dangers of living and going to college in New York City. It was like STDs, taking your own life, um, turning gay,
Is
getting
that was it, like
it's,
Madison Square Garden? Was it that one?
yes, yeah, where Jesse or he played from Rent, Jesse L. Martin, I want to say his name is from Law and Order. He high fived me.
I thought of a good circle back to A Cinderella Story and like what all of this like kind of this movie can show and could show more. It's just about like how people go through shit at such a volatile age, like 16 to 19 to 20, and but like don't make the right decisions. And I think this movie, this character, or maybe it's boy, I'm not gonna speak for everyone, but like cis boys make such like drastic decisions like immediately and like they ruin people's lives and shit. And so like that, I kept thinking about that and like how
Mm.
male centered the narrative is in the teenage years, especially during those Bush years where it's like he can be a dick, but he's still gonna be he's gonna be the catch. And I was like, Hilary Duff, girl, like amazing lead, and like the right her character. Um, the movie should have ended with her just going to Princeton and being like, I got my whole fucking life. Like, I'm gonna get, if I can get Chad Michael Murray to fall in love with me over the internet, and also in real life with wearing a mask, and these boys are this stupid that they don't know who was behind a masquerade mask.
Yeah, like if yeah, she's like this. I haven't even unlocked a tenth of my power, and I've already had my moment at this school. The cheerleaders put on a play about me because they were so jealous. Like
Exactly, right?
she's
Like,
seriously the girl at this school. She's also like the idea that she would be unpopular looking like this totally I think delegitimizes the story where it's like I'm the ugly duckling. It's like how and where because you have I can see your hip bones through your midriff top,
yeah.
but that's not to say she's not the right casting choice. I just think they didn't have to force in this mm, like she. Well, I guess that was what's so aggravating about Chad Michael Murray's character is he just so everyone's so invisible to him,
But
who's
in
not like.
reality, you're right. I agree with the casting choices is wrong, but I think part of what the original script must have been going for is a commentary on how fucking male, like all of these people, like everyone, so many people are raised with their privilege, especially their skin color and their gender, to be main characters, and we're like think they're
Mhm,
main characters, and so like everything is just a fucking story, and like that we're not real people, and I feel like that could have been made clearer by the writing choice to make Hilary Duff's character like more like she learns all these great lessons. She gets the fucking fortune at the end of the movie. She gets like the real, and then but it's all about this boy that she literally had to drag to like I would almost think like knowing like having been a closeted teenage boy who had to fall in line with the patriarchy and like girls and lead girls was
Right.
pretty technically like lying and like going out with girls. Although I only ever made out and over the shirt, touched some girls and over the bra, but
Ooh.
gold star here.
Ah.
'Cause I always felt like it was like, anyways, Chad Michael Murray's character makes me think that like it was almost a queer coded character up until the very end, where he's like all of a sudden a nice guy. Because I'm just like, why are you so lying so much about like who you are and stuff? Like, if like you want to be a fucking poet and you can get accepted to Princeton, girl, you got a good life. Like,
Seriously, yeah, and you can pay to go wherever you want as soon as you just, like, convince your dad that it's a good decision, like, I'm not that concerned for you,
yeah.
and I think that I'm really glad you brought up, like, I think that's another reason this movie feels the story feels so relatable even though doesn't work as an adaptation of Cinderella. The idea of having a secret romance, like, with someone online who pretends to be completely different in public or maybe doesn't see you like that in public or can't has to pretend like they can't see you. That is very relatable to, I think, queer people of our age who
Mhm.
grew up talking online and kind of stepping out of the closet with our internet personas a little bit before we were able to do it with the people IRL. So I love that. I didn't consider the idea that that Chad Michael Murray's character was queer coded because I was too distracted by the best friend whose name I think is Carter
Carter.
being queer coded.
Yep. So actually, I think I when I was rewatching this recently, I was like trying to remember watching this at 13 and like what exactly was I going, like why was I so drawn to it? And I don't have a good answer, but what it made me think about was how almost I see myself in like four different characters, and I'm like, why wasn't there to me now as an out gay man, cis man, that how did I get how how did I think I was Hilary Duff at the time? I was like, I don't think so. But I see parts of me and herself in Carter's character. Like also Carter's character ends up with a girl at the end, but like at no point, I guess he wanted to make out with like the hot pretty girl, and I remember wanting to make out with the hot pretty girl. Yeah, her, and then there was another character. Did you catch it? That I
A
think
coded queer character. Let me think. Would it be one of the stepsisters? I just guessed.
no, I actually thought Regina King's character was very queer coded for um like the fact that when she talks about her wedding dress, like there's no mention of like any gender or anything like that, and I thought that that's all seemed very purposeful. And there was like no, she was like always very, I mean, she could just be a independent cis straight woman, but like it felt very like a lot of her energy comes from like, or that I felt was like, now having known queer women in my life, I'm like, it felt very or queer people, non-binary, anyone, like it was just a very like empowered energy of
Yes.
I'm not going to be a sex object actor choice, like that's not going to be part of this character.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think that there is definitely a queer energy radiating from that character in especially
This is
in
the
that allyship of like, helping somebody, pulling things together in a time of need, like calling on the community, like she brought Hilary to the costume store where she's like, "Please, clearly gay costume shop owner." And he's like, "Free breakfast for a month." And so it's like and then they have a montage of putting on clothes. So I think
which was
I think that's
awful. That whole
oh my
thing,
god.
like I can't believe that it was like there were so many points in this movie where I was like, God, is this how all movies were made at this time? Where like they have to include some zany montage, like either outfit change, or it happens at other points in the movie too, where there's like doing, like kind
It
of like
still happens. I'm every episode of Clip Breakdown, I'm like, "Up, and here's the second act trying on clothes montage." It's literally so annoying. And then it was for nothing because she just found a mask and was like he's like, "Well, I don't have a dress for that." And she's like, "I do." So then I'm like,
that happened
"Well,
in the real Cinderella. Like, was there a whole like outfit change, or didn't the fairy godmother just be like, "Here's your dress"?
she turned her into yeah, her rags turned into magic, and at midnight, it all turned back into a pumpkin and the mice and rags. But in this case, her midnight shift, she had to be back by the end of her midnight shift when Fiona would
Like
catch
the
her.
whole costume scene didn't need to happen. It wasn't funny or cute because it's like The only other thing I had a problem with the setting, otherwise I loved that it was set in LA and it was true to LA themes, was how skewed the time of day things would happen at. And I was like, is this a product of like bad production and like taking too long on set or something? But it was like it's dark out on homecoming night and she doesn't have a dress and she goes to play at a costume store and has to put on like a night suit. I was like, this will take 2 hours. Then
Yep.
he has to go. You have to travel in LA, and like it would probably be 15 minutes to wherever Regina King lived, minimum, if not 30 or 45 minutes away. And then she gets the dress, and then she goes, and it's like, wouldn't it be midnight? How long was she at this fucking dance? Another point in the movie where the time really made me, or like it actually lied to me as a kid, and I was like, I want to get to LA. I was like, these kids don't go to school until like 10 or 11 a.m. in the morning. Because like she's up and working at the diner, which would be like anywhere from 6 to 9, but it looks like it's 2 p.m.
Right.
Which is a thing of LA. Like it looks like 2 p.m. outside, like at 9 a.m. So I was like, what are these? Like, what universe is this where there's like 30 hours in the day?
Endless time. And that's true for a lot of teen movies. They have like an inordinate amount of preschool activity time. And traveling around the city seems to be like done by helicopter. So definitely I think they didn't bring in LA as a character in that sense, in the trafficky sense. But I think yeah, overall I appreciate that the San Fernando Valley spin on it. Like I wasn't able to fully appreciate that when I first saw it because I didn't live there yet. So the movie is shot and it's been premiered,
Mhm.
and despite a negative critical reception, a worldwide gross of, do you want to guess on a budget of 19 million how much the worldwide gross was?
Is that like within like the first 2 months, or like what's the bar?
I think yeah, probably like the first 2 months.
Okay. Uh, 50 mil.
So close, 70 million,
I
which is
remember
a
seeing
smash success.
what that's a smash six. I guess at the time, chicken prices were cheaper, right?
Well, I'll just considering the budget. So they made a huge profit
Right.
off of a $19 million budget, and the amount of like the stuff that it did for like the star power of
Mhm.
Hilary Duff, it's like super
That
valuable
summer
to the
was
brand.
after, so I had just moved back from growing up in Germany, like for 5 years, and so I had to go to this like awful Southern middle school experience where it's like 800 kids in a grade and like everyone hangs out, like there's like everyone gathers in the gym in the morning and like lunch is like all these 800 kids, so like there's so many different kinds of bullies. So sixth and seventh grade were awful, but I saw this fucking movie going into eighth grade, and I remember I came back thinking everyone had seen this movie. I was like, this is like the movie of the year. Because I did have AIM at the time, but I only like had like three friends from school. Like everyone else, I had no idea who they were. And I came back, and like the couple girls that I had like slowly been becoming friends with over my like year, but still wasn't like, good friends with them. They're more just like, this kid's weird. I remember they immediately knew this movie, and I realized that no other boys had seen this or were admitting to having seen this movie. So like,
Right.
became friends with these girls, so like I'm still friends with today. And like they were all like, yeah, we knew in eighth grade that you were a gay because one, that movie, like I asked them this recently because we were prepping for this. They were like that, and you were obsessed with Kelly Clarkson. They were like, that
Oh
was
my
those are the two.
god.
And I was like, I remember being like kind of obsessed with her, but I thought I don't remember.
They
They
said
were
no,
like,
you were very upset.
they were like, no, it was that specifically that we were in one. So I reached out to three of the girls, and one of them was like, I knew that we had to like protect you. We were like, he has to like have a girlfriend. We'll find one for him. Like, you know, he can't make it.
That's hilarious. I want to know. I want to ask people from my childhood what when they first knew. They would probably be like, "Your voice."
We're the only three. So I went to this southern town for like 5 years during like middle school and then like first half of high school. And like these are the only three girls that I still talk to. And like I have to say the movie like caused some kind of like matrix disruption where like I was able to find my girls,
That's
like the first
amazing.
ones that like I could be normal around and like not have to
Right.
worry about being uncovered, even though they were very polite and they were like, Yeah, we knew you couldn't handle it at the time. So
Too
we didn't
much
like
self-awareness.
we remember one girl was like, I remember having a talk with one of the other two girls about how it might cause you like incredible mental stress, and like we didn't
Oh no.
like help you, you know. And they were like, but like the way you would talk about girls, or like that you didn't care about getting a girlfriend, but you knew that you needed one. Um, they're like that was a clear giveaway.
That's a sign. Well, thank goodness for those women in our lives who were allies to us before we even knew we needed allies.
Yeah,
And that's why they're our
and,
lifelong friends.
God bless.
Um,
Goddess bless them.
God has blessed all of those women in our lives and people. So, since the movie was such a commercial success, it went on to spawn several straight to video sequel. Can you guess how many sequels it spawned?
There were sequels to this movie.
Several. I want you to
Wow.
guess.
I didn't even know there was one. How did I miss that? I'm not surprised actually.
Well, we have to have a watch party for all of them.
Ooh, fun. Okay, let's say you said there was a lot, so I'm gonna guess like Freddy Krueger style sequel and say 8.
Okay, yeah, less Freddy Krueger and more, I guess, like Sleepaway Camp. I don't know. There's 5.
Sleepaway Camp. I don't know what that is.
Oh my god, that's a interesting movie too to talk about because they bring up trans issues at the end that didn't age well. But there's 5 straight to video sequels. Another Cinderella Story starring Selena Gomez, which I have seen. A Cinderella Story Once Upon a Song starring Lucy Hale.
Oh no,
Guessing that's a songwriting one.
no.
The Selena Gomez one was a dancing one. That was her secret thing. A Cinderella Story If the Shoe Fits, starring Sophia Carson. Don't know what that must be. A Cinderella Story, A Christmas Wish, Laura Morano.
No.
Something seasonal for you.
Wait, are
And
all of these sequels like canon, like same production studio or writer or director? Like, what's the or did just Cinderella?
yeah, very similar. Like the same director did uh 2 directors did all 5 TV movies, but I don't think they're the same director as the theatrical one. But they're not canon because they're different characters. They all center around different characters.
Okay.
And it's another adaptation of Cinderella with a
So
different
is
coat of paint.
Selena Gomez?
The last one is A Cinderella Story Starstruck, starring Bailey Madison, who is an amazing actress.
What else is Bailey? I don't. That doesn't come to mind.
So she was in this episode of Law and Order SVU that was so good. She was in The Strangers Pray at Night. She was in. Did you watch Wizards of Waverly Place?
I
She was in
anything did.
Don't Be Afraid of the Dark by Guillermo del Toro.
I think I know who you're talking about.
The little girl.
I have a question about the Selena Gomez one because you've seen it.
Yeah,
So is she not? What is Hilary Duff's name in the movie? I just call her Hilary.
Samantha.
Yeah,
Sam.
Sam. Yeah, okay. Is Selena's name? Is it like all? Do they all take
Yeah.
place in the valley, or is
No, I don't remember if another Cinderella story took place in the Valley, but it was definitely a different character altogether.
so they're not sequels in the sense of like none of them are at Princeton?
No, never,
That would have been a
never
smart
continuing the
choice
story.
for the director of
Yeah,
this franchise to do. I want
to like go to Princeton.
I want to see Sam dump Chad Michael Murray for like the real poet at Princeton.
Yeah, but Hilary Duff was so out. They were like, we're not gonna just like cast some other blonde person to pretend to be her, like when Legally Blonde 3 or whatever.
We should cover Jennifer Coolidge and Regina King because
Yes.
they're both like as much as Hilary Duff carries this movie, obviously, or got the reception. Regina King is an Academy Award winner now for If Beale
Yes.
Could Talk. Phenomenal character in that, and it's just like rewatching the movie. I was like, wow, like there's a lot of bad acting in this movie, but like her and Jennifer Coolidge, if like I can't even imagine. I'm sure you can obviously there's thousands of great women actresses, but like I was like this movie, like I can't imagine the directing was why these characters are so good. I think that these actresses came in and were like, you're gonna make this whole thing about me, like the pink diner that's
Yes.
Jennifer Coolidge, like, and the salmon menu.
And so much of that seemed like it had to be improvised, that the stuff that was funny with Jennifer Coolidge, like, when she's, like, eating the salmon and it falls off
Yeah.
the fork onto her
Or
chest.
she's when they're driving and they get in that car accident when the daughter's foot gets stuck, she's, like, adjusting her boobs. Like, it's
Uh,
so, like, amazing. I was, like, very
she's such an icon, you're right, and same with Regina King, both of them, like, the characters like, inherently generic because they're trying to be, like, just these two-dimensional recastings of these fairy tale people, but they like became so three-dimensional in the hands of these actors, and you really feel like I felt the warmth of Regina King being like Sam's godmother, and the like I just believed everything Jennifer Coolidge is or Fiona did, and her daughters, like they really, yeah, sold that whole family system. I mean, the 2 daughters were, like, basically Abbott and Costello the whole time, like, they were directed to go big. That you could see was in not
right.
subtle direction.
Exactly. With Regina King, and this is kind of another segue into let me know if there's any making of relevancy here, or faking of. But I feel like with some of the script with Regina King, like there were moments where I was like watching it now in 2021, and also remembering being like, why is there racism in this movie? Like,
Yes.
why is there like when Carter's character like does the uh he starts like using a black
AAVE.
voice. Yeah, like he starts
Yeah.
like trying to speak. It's inappropriate, and like she kind of just like shuts him down in the most. Like I wish she would be able to actually shut him down, but
Right.
you know, women have black women like that in situations like that can't fly off the fucking handle. But it
Right.
was like then there was another point. Oh,
Which in itself is harmful. It's like and they showed that part in the trailer, of the
really?
movie, like, they
Oh,
sold that as, like, where she goes, "Call me girlfriend one more time."
yeah.
And, that was, like, meant to be, like that was yeah, I remember it from the trailer, and now looking back, it's like, "Seriously?"
At least, but
She
like,
also
yeah.
said Fiona called her Betty Crocker from the Hood.
That was the second one where I was just like, "What writing is this?" And like, thank God both of these women are like able to like deliver the actual acting of you as a viewer are supposed to realize that this is awful.
Yeah,
But like without like I've definitely seen movies 10 years prior to that where like the same line was delivered and it was supposed to be like a
right, like, it wasn't self-aware of, like, it was clearly when Fiona said it, she was like I thought that Jennifer Coolidge was playing it like she was very aware that Fiona was racist,
yeah.
and not just like, "This is actually a joke on its face."
But like good
Um
early Karen like commentary, like
Oh,
I think
yeah,
that's
definitely.
Coolidge like knew that like she's not supposed to be the hero. She's supposed to be very
Yeah.
you're supposed to abhor people like that because they're
You're
awful
the wicked
creatures of
stepmother.
the earth. Yeah.
I wanna point out a few other things that didn't age well, like a friend saying to the girl who said, "I ate earlier, Madison, laxatives don't qualify as a food group." I was like, "Okay, well, that's horrible."
That whole character felt very Candace Owens to me. I was like, what is this? Like, why is this black girl hanging out with these awful white people in the valley?
Yeah.
Like, this is like, and for her to be that character, that was another like moment where I was just like, this hasn't aged well. Like, this is so like awful directing of like using black people as prop comedy and
Right.
narrative structure. Like, it was so awful. But you're right. Also with uh the eating disorder jokes, like it's like such a
The nuances and the, like, literal joke itself are problematic.
wait.
I hated the
That same scene is like the perfect class commentary of like hitting home during these Bush years of like laborers are bad and like anyone who's like like you should deserve to get tipped and there's like should all be about service and all of this stuff.
right.
Them calling her diner girl was like so like brought back like all these like Marge Simpson Chanel moments for me. Like as a kid,
Uh,
like I was too poor to afford like at the time. I think the low end of like cool fashion for suburban kids was like Abercrombie and American Eagle, and like I could
right.
only afford maybe sometimes like once a year, like get some one shirt at Aeropostale, and then like the rest was like Walmart or Kohl's or the secondhand for my brother and shit like that or cousins. And like them calling her diner girl, I was just like, I would slap the shit out of like
Yeah,
now,
so bad.
now I would, but like not at that age. But like it's just
I'm also like, I have a hard time believing in the Valley, this is the only teenager at the school who has a job. But that's movie land for you.
yeah.
But yeah, the classism definitely came through loud and clear there. I hated that when Chad Michael Murray said, "You're not a guy, are you? Because if you are, I'll kick your butt." I was like, okay, gay bashing.
I
Um,
loved Hillary's character. Sam's that Sam carries it like I think she says like, okay, next question. Like
totally.
doesn't
She played it off good. She was like, "I'm not a guy."
yeah, yeah, it's
She said, "I'm not a guy, and fuck you. Even if I was, you'd still want to eat this
um
pussy."
I have another casting thing that I want to discuss, which is like as a closeted queer boy watching this as a kid, like knowing that I was in the closet, I remember being like, this do people think Chad Michael Murray's hot? Like I didn't understand. Like he was that was the first time I think I don't know if his One Tree Hill was before or after that. Um it was after.
Before,
Before, okay. So like I imagined
during.
that show. I think I was living overseas at the time when that was popular. And but who I did wait, who did you have a crush on of the male casting choices?
The dad.
The dad. Oh,
Oh my god, the
I
dad.
completely forgot how much I was like, wow, he's super hot. I would love like his nose, like everything.
Yeah, his face, he was like a Greek god. I was like, he looks like he would take me to like an ancient Greek place, like he was Augustus Caesar or something.
He would
And
take
then when he died in that earthquake, I died. I cried real tears when he died.
oh, you mean her dad? I thought you meant Austin's dad.
Oh god, the two of them, both. But that guy I've seen, he's like in a lot of movies. But yes, he also has a Greco-Roman look to him, like a little more villainous. He's definitely more of the dom.
Yeah, he looks like I remember being like, because I was a nerd and would read Greek mythology and shit. I was like, Zeus, you can take me. You can come down as a swan and take me behind the olive tree, like with that nose.
Oh my god, yeah, he's gorgeous. His facial features are so pretty.
Anyone else that you think was that you were hunky or
I can't think of any who are you thinking of?
Chad Michael Murray's friend who's not the Three Musketeer that's also has queer coding because why fight over like it's
Yeah,
anytime I like there's ever like boys fighting over a girl I'm like one of you's gay like
he
that.
was super cute. I did think that too. I was like, "Oh yeah, I would be into him if I was a child or whatever." And it was fun to see them. Like to me, him and Carter chasing each other is gay sex
Yes,
because
it's gay sex.
Carter got on his hands and knees and crawled across that bar, which I have done recently.
And the slamming the bar like while delivering a note about
Pirates of Penzance.
which is like oh guy
Yeah, you guys both are on prep from this conversation alone.
no definitely one of them's on prep and one of them's DL like being being bad.
Love that for them.
But not him. The other one, the one who was kissing the adult. Remember? Oh my god, that's another problematic thing that hasn't aged well. The old lady who, Tammy Lee Baker, is that her name? Who's the teacher?
Oh yeah, Lin Che.
Yeah, that. Who's Lynn Shay?
Wait, who are you talking about? What are you
Talking about
talking
the
about?
famous teacher from the '90s that like had a relationship with like her fifth grade student,
Oh yeah,
and
not Tammy Faye Baker, but something. I can't remember her name either,
or
but she was
everyone.
like the first. There's actually an unfortunate amount of those.
But there was a really famous one where she went to jail, and then as soon as she got out, the boy was like 21, and they got married, and they had like
Yes.
3 kids or something. There was that is she the principal of the school is like has a sexual relationship with one of the Three Musketeers boys.
Where did you get that? I missed that.
There's multiple times in the movie where like she's like, "Hi Ryan," and like she
Oh, right, where
and,
she's
like
playing
don't
favorites.
I think there's a scene where they're kissing in the movie, isn't there?
I did not get the
Like,
teacher kissing the
they're hiding behind something.
child.
They're kissing. I'm pretty sure.
That's an intense allegation because that would be
Or she spat
so
his
weird.
butt or something, like, while he's walking away. Like, it's very.
There was something weird, and I do remember there being teachers in high school who I was like, "Why are you weird to that student?" But I guess that's a real thing
I'm
that
pretty sure
happens.
there's a kissing scene at the dance. Like, there's something weird where they're both. I wouldn't say consenting because he's a 17-year-old, I
Right.
think, in the movie, or
Right.
17 or 18 at the time. But like
There's
the
some mischief.
yeah, like it's definitely like they're both look like they're having fun. And like, which is another weird directing thing of the movie, which is like, would this Three Musketeer boy be caught doing that at the school? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe boys are dumb, but
Yeah, I guess you're right. That's a good question. I just remembered that I just realized that that was Lin Shaye from the, like, Insidious movies and all of the Insidious movies.
was Lin
She's like,
Shaye
it
the lady?
the older teacher, yeah, she's like then she was like, "Into the Further" in Insidious, if you remember. She was in all of those sequels as well. But just another actor who carried this movie, which is why it's one of our favorites and so one that I'm so glad we got to break down with you in detail today here on the Faking of. Joseph, can you tell people where they can find you or anything you want them to know before we wrap up?
Yeah, my parting message is everyone should be inspired by the undercover themes in this movie that aren't necessarily executed on him by the end. But and that is, be yourself, know your worth. Don't let people, fuck you around and like drag you around to their own narrative. Live your own life and drive your own electric car. Everyone should
Yeah.
drive their own electric car. If you ever do want to follow me, if you like anyone wants to learn about crypto or blockchain stuff, my Twitter handle is crypto CryptoJeaux. So Joe, but like how French people would say it.
Love that. I didn't know you could speak so many languages. Actually, I did know that.
I
Joe's
would
learned.
only call myself fluent in English, but I'm familiar with about 6 languages.
Which is why we get the clever Twitter handles.
Which is catch me on those aliases.
Joe, thank you so much for being a guest here on The Faking of. It has been so wonderful getting into the behind the scenes story of a Cinderella story with you. To all of you listening at home, thank you so much for joining. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe to this podcast so that you can see us next time on The Faking of.
Bye.